You are listening to Shameless Stories, and I'm Nicola Humber, founder of the Unbound Press, soul-led publishing company for magical women writing world-changing books. And we are delighted to be the sponsor of this podcast. So enjoy, magical one.
So, welcome to another episode of Shameless Stories, the podcast that aims to lift the lid on all things to do with shame, unravel stories that have kept us in that space, and showcase how people can change their lives through thinking differently. I'm really excited to introduce my next guest, Sarah Hoyle. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
So you're a coach, an ex-photographer, ex-secondary school teacher, and your business is called Nurture You, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm still practicing photography at the same time as being a coach, so that's still something that I'm offering. But yeah, I kind of wear two different hats at the moment. I've got two different businesses. So Sarah Hoyle Photography is my wedding and family photography business that's been running for nearly 13 years now, but Nurture You is really my my new passion. That is personal brand photography for women in business, to empower them to feel amazing and confident in front of the camera. And also blended with that is mindset coaching. So before you have a photo shoot with me, you have a session to do with mindset so that you're set up perfectly well, so you feel really confident when you step in front of the camera finally. But also, aside from that, I offer one-to-one coaching. I do workshops and coaching programs as well to flip or shift your mindset from one of stuck negativity, imposter syndrome, all of that stuff that we feel as business owners, to one of empowerment and confidence and knowing that you're going to be successful and making all the right moves in the right direction. So yeah, that's what I'm really passionate about, is helping women.
So that leads me really neatly on to, because we've done the thing that I always do where we have the pre-chat, and that's where all the good stuff comes up. So we were just talking about your career journey, and you just like where you are now. And there's a personal reason why.
So Nurture You has come about because of my personal journey. And I just want to give back, essentially. So it means so much to me to help other women, because I've been through this huge personal transformation myself. So it mostly started after I had children. I was still a secondary school teacher at that point. I was a secondary school teacher for over a decade. I taught art and photography. And kind of in the back of my mind, always knew that I wanted to be a business owner. My dad owned his own business for the last 20 years before he retired. So it was something that was in our family and something that I thought that potentially I could do. So I had I've got two children, and after the birth of my first child, I had not an amazing birth experience. I mean, this is now 13 years ago, because she'll be 13 at the end of the summer. And yeah, it was just one of those traditional births where I was on my back the whole time and I was being screamed at to push, and I didn't know anything. I just went in trusting the midwives that they were going to look after me and it was all going to be absolutely fine. And unfortunately it wasn't. So I had a very traumatic birth. It was incredibly quick for my first. And you can imagine what that does to the body down below when something's pushed out rather quickly. And my body wasn't ready. So yeah, I had a lot of injuries. I got whisked off to the theatre after I gave birth, so I didn't have any skin to skin time or anything like that. My poor husband was just left in this room literally holding the baby. And I got taken off. So my healing recovery after that was not simple. It was really complicated. And I got left with, obviously, physical scars, emotional scars from the experience, but then also this very complicated condition to do with my bladder. So the symptoms were I needed the loo all the time, just felt like I needed the loo all the time, needed to wee. It was a the only thing I can liken it to for women to understand is it's like cystitis, but 24/7, no antibiotic is going to kill it because it's not an infection. So I would go for a wee, then my bladder would start filling, and after about 10 minutes, I'd be in so much pain in my bladder, I'd have to then go to the toilet again to relieve that sensation of pain in the bladder. So that was my life whilst trying to navigate motherhood for the first time and have a newborn, trying to breastfeed, which in itself was a journey. I ended up with mastitis, ended up back in hospital with that infection. Oh my gosh, it was just horrific. And, you know, of course, everyone around is going, oh, what a wonderful, beautiful time this is for you, your new first baby. And, you know, my husband and I had only been married a year as well. So there was a lot of, I guess, internal pressure for me to enjoy this time. And actually, I was living in hell.
Yeah.
And I think I remember ringing my mum and just like sobbing down the phone to her for her to come over. And I was chatting to her and realised that this is the only decision in life that you can't reverse. So like buying a house, you can reverse that. Marriage, you can reverse that. Having a child, you can't reverse
Can't
it.
give it back.
No, you can't give it back. There's no like 28 days return policy on that one, is there? So I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And my mum, bless her, was like, oh, you've always been a creature of comfort, dear. You've always loved your sleep. And so obviously my sleep was gone. This bladder condition was horrific. And no one knew what was wrong with me. Everyone was like pumping me through it full of antibiotics, thinking it was an infection in the early days. And then it got to kind of like a year down the line. I still was suffering the whole time. And I ended up being pretty much told it was in my head because there's nothing, they couldn't see anything wrong with me. I'd had all these procedures in my bladder, nothing wrong with you. Off you go. We can't help you anymore. So I was just in this horrifically hopeless place, pretending that everything was fine to the outside world and to my friends and family because they were bored of hearing me talk about needing the loo the whole time. I barely went out because I was so scared I wasn't going to be able to access a toilet. So yeah, that was the beginning of motherhood for me, and there was so much shame around that because I just felt like I was a massive failure. My body had failed them. It was supposed to be the most natural thing in the world to deliver this child into the world and breastfeed, and I couldn't really breastfeed properly. Well, one, because I needed the loo the whole time, couldn't just breastfeed and then get up and go to the loo the whole time. So, and then also like my body was failing me in terms of I couldn't enjoy this time with my newborn baby and all these milestones that were coming with her. I was just suffering constantly, and so couldn't talk about it. I know I had postnatal depression. It was completely unrecognized by anybody, but I just head down, just get on. That was kind of like the mantra at the time. So then was able to get on. I was given some medication that relaxed the bladder a little bit more, so I was able to kind of go an hour in between needing the loo, and that's how I lived my life for 4 years, and then had my second child. Had to come off all those meds to obviously be pregnant. During pregnancy, all the symptoms went away. It was incredible. It's like my body was just like, yeah, I know what I've got to do now. I've got to cope with this second baby growing inside you, so I'm gonna fix myself. So I was like, oh, I was very, very hopeful, full of glee and joy that the second birth was going to be absolutely fine and I was going to be cured afterwards. And that was the case. I had a much better birthing experience because I'd done some research into how to avoid being as injured as I was the first time. Had a water birth. It was much more peaceful, much more serene, not so much trauma around that. And the first month with my second child was like a dream. It was amazing. I was breastfeeding easily. The bladder was behaving itself. I was like, yes, I'm finally over all this horrific time. And then literally, 4 weeks after her birth, like literally overnight, all the symptoms came back again.
Oh.
And it was like, yeah, like someone had just literally slapped me around the face, pulled the rug from under me, and I could not believe what was going on. So panic stricken, rang the doctor, and they were like, come off, you've got to stop breastfeeding literally now. to go back on all of these meds that you were on before to get it under control. Of course, I was grieving horrifically having to give up breastfeeding like that, because I was actually enjoying it and feeling really close and bonded with my second child, which I didn't have that experience with my first. So I always felt like I'd failed with my first in that sense. So loads of shame around that. And then, yeah, this was then taken away from me, breastfeeding with my second child. So then put on all these meds, thinking over the course of a week, it will all calm down again. It will be fine. The meds didn't even touch the surface of my symptoms. I was on the highest prescription possible and nothing was touching it. So I was back to square one with the every 10 minutes thing. And then the lowest point was where I went 48 hours without sleep, because I was just on the loo the whole time.
That's hell on earth,
yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But couldn't even lie down. Couldn't even lie down and shut my eyes and try to get to sleep, because my bladder was screaming at me to go to the loo. So I literally sat on the loo for 48 hours.
So that wasn't the turning point for you though, right? That horrendous experience.
No. So, I mean, on the back of that, I did think that I didn't want to be alive anymore, because I was such a burden to everybody. Like, how could I be a mother when this is the state I was in? Anyway, so as you do, you just got to get on. I've got to look after 2 children. So I did just get on. I was given some more medication for all of my psychological issues as well that was going on. So that kind of got me through a little bit. But then finally found a women's health physio that I thought might be able to help me, because nothing the NHS was throwing at me was working at all. And she opened my eyes to acupuncture, to my diet, so a lot more of a holistic approach to what was going on with my bladder. She recognised that I had systemic inflammation, and that obviously wasn't helping. So she was doing amazing things were turning around. But my outlook to life, because I've been through this horrific journey, I was so angry at the world that all this had happened. So angry I'd been robbed of these few early years with my children, so bitter, and just so negative that everything was a problem, everything was woe is me. And I did feel really, really sorry for myself, but I kind of was like, but I should feel sorry for myself. I'm allowed to feel sorry for myself because I've been through all this horrificness, la 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 la. My best friend, who had been obviously there through every step for all of this, finally to turn around and said, Sarah, you really need to start being a bit more positive. Like, I know you've been through this stuff, but and we've been friends for over 20 years. I just don't know if I can cope with having this negativity around me anymore. So she was putting her energy boundaries in place, which now obviously I totally respect. At the time it was heartbreaking, because I thought she didn't want to be my friend anymore, but it completely woke me up to realizing my outlook on life sucked. And yes, I'd been through some stuff, but actually I was in control of being able to change my mindset and change my outlook on everything. And we're just realizing how self-obsessed I've been, because I was literally like, how can I fix myself? How can I fix myself? How can I fix myself? Just to do with my bladder, and not necessarily even thinking about my outlook on life and my mental state.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine the pain you were in. And I think there's an element of course you should, you're in pain, of course, but I guess like having a friend kicking you up the backside like that to tell you that the only person that can change things is yourself, I think it's an opportunity to change your life, right? Which is what you did.
Yeah. So from that moment on, I just looked deep into who I was and how I was behaving, and just realised, crikey, I've almost set myself up for failure here. So I very, very slowly started looking at how I was behaving, what I was doing in my life, and I basically resigned myself to this lifestyle of not really leaving the house, and it all being about my bladder, and everything revolved around me and my needing the toilet all the time. And even though things were getting better, I still was obsessed with that. And so just thought, actually, let's shift the focus away from that. And how about we shift the focus towards going out as a family? We had a holiday booked in Cornwall where we'd have to drive for like 5 hours, and I was panicking about that. And so I then had this mantra of, we will go on holiday. It will be amazing. We will enjoy ourselves. The bladder is not going to rule me. So literally just that small shift away from with little goals in front of me that, and thinking positively about that, that really, it was massive shift in how I showed up in the world. I started looking after myself, started exercising again, feeling much better. I started doing regular yoga, really got into yoga and stretching, and obviously that was helping with my pelvic floor condition. It was actually nothing to do with my bladder. It was actually just a dysfunctional pelvic floor where some bits were really, really tight. It was like an elastic band around my bladder, which was causing it not being able to fill. So that was, I finally got a diagnosis through my physio. We explored all these things. So I was doing lots of stretching, which also meant at the end of yoga, you do your little bit of meditation, don't you? And so I discovered meditation. I started reading about meditation. I got the Headspace app, and started practicing that regularly. I started journaling for the first time since I was about 13. Like, I used to journal all the time when I was 13, 14, going through my teenage angsty time, and then barely, as we all did. So and so looked at me in maths lesson today, all of that stuff. What did it mean? He looked at me for 10 seconds. What does that mean? So I used to journal all the time when I was a teenager, and then suddenly picked up the pen and started journaling again, as a grown up, as an adult, and realizing how healing that could be. So it was, it wasn't just one thing that changed me. It was a whole journey. And then looking inside of myself on a daily basis, through the meditation, through the exercise, through looking at life a bit more positive, through having these like little mini goals in front of me all the time. Just transformation started coming very, very slowly throughout all the years, and just feeling that little bit more positive about everything. I then thought, now's the time to look at some stuff that happened way back in the past. So I had some EFT tapping stuff, and that released a whole load of stuff from childhood and the birth and everything. And that was, again, another kind of pivotal transformational point in my healing too. So just being open to all of these things, whereas before I would have gone, what? You're going to tap on my forehead for an hour? Go away, I just wouldn't have even considered it. So I became someone who was much more tuned into what I needed, and started understanding myself a hell of a lot more. And that's just been magical. So I really feel like I'm sitting in my authentic self now, and I've also forgiven past Sarah for a lot of crazy behavior that happened, and forgiven myself for being a miserable cow. And I was sitting on the loo because, that was shit. It was really shit time. But I was also navel gazing so much every single day. Yeah.
I guess, I've just noticed the shift in energy as you've changed the trajectory of your story. It's so interesting, fascinating, but also it goes to show the power of manifesting and like setting intention. Like you were saying, you've flipped the script on your trip to Cornwall, and actually even just rewording how you were perceiving that journey. I suspect it wasn't as bad as you had set yourself up. If you'd have continued with the mindset of, oh my god, I'm going to need the toilet, you wouldn't have gone. And the power of that, just thinking that your friend was a gift.
Absolutely. Every day I say to her, that was the beginning of my transformation. Thank you for being so brave, because I could have turned around and gone, oh, F you, I don't want to be your friend anymore if you're not going to support me. You know, and I actually probably did have that thought when she first said it. But she was so brave to call me out because no one else did. And it was the turning point, honestly, because everyone was like, oh, poor Sarah, oh God, you know, mollycoddling me. And that's what I thought I needed, was sympathy, because I was sitting in this victim space going, poor me, help me, I can't help myself, you need to help me. And actually that wasn't served, all of that attitude towards myself and everyone around me, that wasn't serving me at all. What I really needed was that massive kick up the bum. You fucking got this, Sarah, come on, you can do it. And actually deep down I have got this strength, this inner strength through, I was bullied horrifically as a child, all this stuff from my childhood. So, but I got through it. I got through it alone, because back in the 90s there wasn't like a pastoral team at school, you know. It was basically 4 non-blondes and myself and my journal got through the 90s
on repeat.
yeah 100%. Maybe a bit of Kurt Cobain thrown in there too. So I got through all of that I had inner strength. I knew I had inner strength and determination, and I've got through, you know, I got through an eating disorder when I was younger as well, by myself. No one really knew about it. But I not cured myself, but you know, I stopped my dysfunctional behavior with food. So I know I've got that inner strength in me, and that had disappeared during this awful time. And I just felt weak and hopeless. And yeah, that little kick up the bum from my friend just it ignited the fire in my belly again to live life to its fullest. So yeah.
But I find it fascinating that I think the way that society is set up for women is, especially in a childbirth situation, or in, you know, in any ailment, we kind of, there is an element of giving our power away to the doctor. Like, you kind of go, well, come on, you fix me then.
And absolutely, yeah.
You went down all the routes, they gave you all the tablets, but they weren't particularly supportive. It was almost like you were gaslighted a little bit around, you know, the fact that you had the pain. And it's like, well, how would you know? You're not experiencing this all the time. But I guess it just also shows that sometimes holistic methods are, you know, but I guess holistic methods are the things that get us back in our bodies and back in our, you know, we can figure it out for ourselves a little bit.
Absolutely. And that's the point I got to when I found my women's health physio. She made me realise that knowledge is power. Well, applied knowledge is power. So you can get all the knowledge, but if you don't do anything with it, then you're still not in the state of power. So applied knowledge is power. And together we learned about what was going on with my body, and I realised that before I'd met her, I definitely was relying on doctors to give me a pill and fix me overnight. You know, I've got this, because that's what you're brought up with. You know, you're poorly, got an ailment, you go to the doctor, they give you a prescription, you take it for a week, and everything's done and dusted, and you're fine. You know, that's the narrative that we're taught in society. That, and you're right. Like, we're not in control of our own healing. There, we've completely given over our power to the experts. And again, that's the situation I was in when I had my first baby. You know, I came in, I think I'd had 2 contractions, and they were like, right, you need, oh gosh, I can't remember what the pain killing stuff is now. It's not I didn't have an epidural.
Oh, pethidine.
Pethidine, that's it. She snapped a load, she whacked the needle in, give me some pethidine. I hadn't even agreed or not agreed. You know, and my husband was like, yeah, go on then, because obviously I was in, you know, quite a lot of discomfort. But I hadn't really been given a chance to give birth naturally or anything. So she chucked that in me, and then that meant that everything was too fast. Everything happened too quickly, and therefore the knock-on effects of all of it. So anyway, my point is, it's kind of like the men in white coats come along, and you trust them with everything, your body and everything. But actually, I learned from my second birth that I was in control, and everyone else can do one. I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to do it slowly as I need to do it. And it showed, like, you know, the birth was so much more successful, and everything kind of worked out perfectly with that birth.
Yeah, it's such a, it's, I mean, that is a mirror. I see that my first birth was more traumatic than my second one. And I mean, there's something to be said with that wisdom, right? But then I guess because I'd gone to NCT classes, and they teach you how to give birth.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's kind of, well, mine didn't go to plan. So well, hang on, I'm doing it wrong then, because it didn't go to plan. And
I know.
So yeah,
all that NCT stuff goes out the window when you're sat there having a contraction. What did she say? What was that I've got to do? And like, I looked into a bit of hypnobirthing stuff. I didn't fully engage in it because I was still in that mindset of like, not really sure if this is for me. And I just remember part of it being talking about like the flower opening, and my husband, when I was having contractions, darling, think about the flower. Don't want to think about any flowers opening.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I guess the learning for you then, like, what would you say from all of that? Like, if you were to give the listeners any kind of guidance or insight into shifting from a victim mindset to more positive growth, however you want to call it.
Trust your instincts. I think trust yourself that you will get through it, whatever you're going through. There is always hope. Always. It's never ever as bad as it feels. The next day will come, and I think it is just literally trying to. Well, what I teach some of my clients that I coach is that we've all got this old tape. We've got this tape of stories that goes on in our heads about who we are, how we're supposed to behave, what we've learned, what we've been told when we were younger. It's like a 90s mixtape all in one of all these negative beliefs and stories. And that creates our belief system. But actually, you can just pull all of that old cassette tape out and chuck it away, and you can re-record the future on a new tape, and to trust yourself that you can do that, because the mind is an incredible tool, and you don't always have to stick with what you've been told and what society expects of you.
Love that.
It can change.
Like being curious. No, I mean, at the end of the day, I see it as like that what you've shared here, it's just like the power is within, you know, you have the power.
Yeah, turning that on as well, recognizing it. That's what I mean by trusting yourself. You know, we all have so much in us that is untapped and we don't even recognize or aware of. So I teach in my workshops, there's an acronym of a framework that I've created called ACT. So the A stands for acknowledging the thoughts in our heads, because a lot of people aren't even aware of that inner monologue that goes on in our brains, and the inner critic and the stories that we tell ourselves. So becoming aware of all of those stories and that voice in our head is the first step. It's very hard if you're not tuned in. So that's where I wasn't even aware that I was being angry and a victim, and just suddenly becoming more aware of all the stuff I was telling myself was literally like the pivotal first step. Then when you're aware of it, you then have to challenge those thoughts, which again is very, very difficult because it's the tape that we've been playing on repeat for the whole of our lives. So that's the C for ACT, challenge. So acknowledge, challenge, and then the T is your transformation part. So that's obviously putting in place the acknowledging and the challenging, and then it's the transforming and loving yourself. Is all it comes down to, is how much do I love and respect myself? Do I want to sit in this place of misery, or do I want to live life to its fullest? So what can you do? And for me, it was those simple things of, like you say, setting intentions every day, setting small goals for achievement, moving your body, trying to sleep right, feeding your body the right things, just self-respect and self-love for that transformational phase.
I love it. That's amazing. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your shameless story.
Okay, pleasure. If it helps just one person out there, that's my aim. But as I said, my passion now is to show people that that there is hope, and the kind of clients I get are very similar to who I was back then, crushed, probably perimenopausal, feeling like they're lost and stuck and don't know what to do with themselves. And that's definitely where I was. So if I can help and support women come through that, because I think we're only just starting, really. We're only just starting the revolution of women taking over the world.
Oh, for sure. It's all these feral teenagers from the 90s have
Right.
It's capturing every moment.
We're going to be stomping along in our DMs going, come on. We've got this.
Yes. Oh God, did you have a Holy cardigan as well?
Yeah. All the cuffs, you got to have them over, yeah, so you can wipe your tears away as well. soggy Holy cuffs.
Oh my God, I love the 90s.
I love-hate relationship with them, honestly. when the fashion started coming around again, I literally had like PTSD from my time in the 90s, because that was like the time when I was bullied, the time when I was becoming a teenager and exploring alcohol and all of that horrific time. So yeah, but as I said, I've done work on forgiving old Sarah, teenage Sarah, because she only did the best she could in what the tools she was given.
Yeah, and you can now wear the 90s fashion and forgive her for that.
Yeah, exactly. I have actually got a pair of DMs which I rock.
Oh my goodness me, I could talk to you all day. Reminiscing 90s.
No, gosh, yeah, how life has changed, eh? I still think when it's the 90s, I still think that's only like 20 years ago or something. I can't get my head around the fact that it's 2025. Just like, what?
Oh my God.
Yeah, crazy. I feel like the last decade or so has gone really quick, but also been stretched out in time, because obviously that's been my huge time of transformation. So it does feel like I've achieved so much in that time. So it feels like a long period of time, but actually has also gone in a blink, because suddenly I've got a preteen,
Yes, that's and probably another podcast episode.
Yes, I think so. I think we need another one.
You can definitely come back and share that story.
Oh my gosh, definitely.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on.
It's been amazing. Oh, sorry, I talked over you there. People can find me mostly on Instagram. That's kind of like my hangout space. Nurture You from Sarah Hoyle is my name. I do have a website. It's in the making. So it is called, what is it now? It's nurtureyoubrandphotography.co.uk. It's just a homepage at the moment because it's still being made, but hopefully in the next few months that'll be a lot more content on there. But that's about it, really. I am on LinkedIn and Facebook, but I'm rubbish. I don't go on any.
More of an Insta girl.
I love a bit of Insta. I'm a visual person, so I love a bit of Instagram. Yeah. Stick to what I know.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Sarah. And we'll get you back to talk in the future, I think. And if you've enjoyed this episode, guys, please do like, share, all the things. And any comments, if you want to reach out to Sarah, do let me know. But in the meantime, we will see you next week for another episode of Shameless Stories.